So this is the new and improved Average Joe Strongman Show. And we're
What's
back.
up? Yep. I'm Mike.
And I'm Lee.
And we are the Average Joe Strongman Show. Quick little background. This podcast was originally born of an idea of Mr. Lee Woody. Lee, I'll let you give a little backstory on that.
Yeah, so I started the original Average Joe Strongman Show, as probably most of you know, back in May of 2018. I was injured at the time, had a lot of downtime, so it was something that I really kind of always wanted to do anyway. And the intent was to provide content and talk to people in the sport that, it's the average Joe Strongman, the people that compete day in and day out, every weekend in the amateur strongman circuit. We're, by interviewing these down-to-earth people that, they're actively involved. You're not going to see Thor and Eddie on here. We're going to be interviewing people that are active in the sport. And I've been meaning to get this podcast back going for a while due to high demand and inquiry. I've had people hammering me to get this thing going again. So Mike and I joined forces to bring the podcast back to life. And Mike has reformatted the base template with his experience. And so we got a new and exciting vibe going on. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
I would also add that this podcast is probably going to skew more towards the older, more mature crowd, the masters crowd, because really the goal is to educate, not just entertain, but educate and really help share some knowledge from people that have been doing this for a long time. So,
absolutely. So with that being said, I want to talk for just a few seconds about we're going to standard disclaimer for you, those of you who remember the old show. We're going to do that again in the new show. So the views and opinions expressed on the Average Joe Strongman Show are those of the authors and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of River City Barbell, which is my home gym, or E-Town Fitness, which is Mike's home gym, or any vendors discussed during the podcast. Any content provided by our bloggers or authors are of their opinion and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, anyone, or anything. So this is our opinion, people. We're trying to share some knowledge here. We're trying to bring some people on that have got some experience in the sport, to help people that are interested in strongman, make that leap forward and get into competing. So
don't be scared.
Don't be scared. Don't be scared. So we got a great show tonight. We've got the Kilted Wonder, Mr. Chris Vachio is going to be joining us. Excited to have him. He was actually, I think, my second guest on the first round we did. I think you were my first one, I think.
Maybe.
The old show. But anyway, everybody knows Chris Vachio and what a ride he is, so this should be a lot of fun. So we're going to bring Chris online, so stand by.
Hey, gentlemen.
There he is.
The man, the myth, the legend. What's up, brother?
Usual stuff. Yeah. Trying to stay in one piece.
Hey, let's get right to it. Chris, let people who are watching know what got you interested in strongman. What was your background, prior to strongman, organized sports, athletic-wise?
Yeah, I actually did a fair bit of sports beforehand. I wrestled in high school. I played Little League football. I went from football to wrestling just because I didn't like being able to play my ass off and have somebody else fuck it up for me. So which I experienced.
Yeah, there's that.
I mean, it's like I was, I'd have a great game and I'd be doing everything right. And the guy on the other side of the line would fuck it up and, we'd lose. And I didn't like losing on account of somebody else. So I veered more towards an individual sport.
Yeah.
And, so wrestling it was. I've also got a martial arts background. I've got a black belt in Kung Fu. Probably can't lift my leg up past my waist now, but but back 160 pounds ago, I was pretty damn flexible. Like, you
know. How old were you when you got into strongman? At what point in your life did you jump into strongman?
Gosh, I was 38, I think, when I first got into the sport. It's been about 12. It's been about 12 years.
All right.
I was 38 when I first got. I didn't even know it existed as a sport.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have found it back when I had cartilage.
Yeah. Well, you were a little younger than I was, and then I think Lee was too. I didn't start until I was in my early 40s.
Yeah.
I think Lee as well.
I was 43 when I started. Actually, Chris is actually, I met him. He was one of the first people I met in the sport before I competed at the Beast, or the Bluegrass.
Yeah. And you
stayed, brothers.
Stayed in even after
even after the abuse you guys put me through that day. I came back for more, yeah, for sure.
Well, and bringing it full circle, I'll never forget. I got into this like in the early 2010s or whatever you call that, 2011, 2012, and I remember seeing Chris all over social media, just seeing some of the crazy shit that he would post, and I'm like, who is this guy? I got to meet this guy, and then. I remember just kind of watching you at Nationals in 2016 going, that guy is fucking hilarious. Yeah. And then we finally met for reals at your show, Lee, at Muscle Gear back in probably 2016, probably that same year.
Sounds about right.
And been pals ever since. It's been a fun ride.
Yeah, I remember when there was the old forum. Now, you got to remember this 2013, right? Remember it was the old forum. There was no Facebook pages and all that stuff.
Monday Muscle, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's right, Monday Muscle. Yes. And I said, I got on there and I posted. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. So, how the hell do you pick up an Atlas stone?
Well, that hasn't changed.
Who's the first one to answer was Vachio. I'm like, well, who's this guy, right? But there he is. So, how long have you been competing now, Chris?
12 years. I started right out of the gate. I think I trained for my first contest for maybe 2 months. I got into it. And I helped out. I started with Steve Slater, bought a log from him, and he was like, well, hey, come train events with us on Saturdays. And I'm like, yeah, sure, it sounds cool. Went out there, started, and just had a blast. And then helped him out at a show, and I was watching the show, and it was just cool watching the athletes compete and watching the camaraderie, guys were helping each other out, cheering each other on. Watched Vince Gazzara, who he was 60 at the time. Maybe
he's a madman. Oh my God.
Yeah. So Vince was in that show, and watching him haul around some farmers' handles and load some stones, and heck, he might have been older than 60 at that point. I can't even remember. I remember one of the other guys was like, damn, if I could just walk from the posts at that age rather than even loading a stone onto them.
Right. Yeah.
So, but seeing all that, I got the bug right away. And I jumped into my first show. I signed up, and it was 2 months later. So I actually started, I'd been training events for 2 months, and then went ahead and entered my first show. And
you talked about the transition from football to wrestling and, more of an individual sport. I mean, strongman is definitely an individual sport. We all do it alone. You're out there alone. But I do feel like, and I've said this to people for years, what's really special about it is the camaraderie, right? The brotherhood, the sisterhood among the athletes. You don't see that in a lot of other sports.
No, you really, I cost myself points one time with Lee because his strap broke. So I threw in mine, if I did it. Yeah, well, he tied me, so I ended up losing a half a point or a point on that event.
Hold on a minute. That was at Albrecht's comp.
Yes,
it was a progressive car deadlift, right? Yeah. And he had Cadillac ATS all-wheel drive Cadillacs. These are full-size cars. Them things were every bit of 650 pounds at the handles.
Yeah.
And I pulled the first rep, and then when I went to pull the second rep, my strap broke. And I'm like, okay, well, I still got 30 seconds left. Vachio's like, here, use mine. Throws me his strap. So by the time I had about 6 seconds left on the clock and tried to pull it again, it was a train wreck. Yeah, it was Vachio,
Lance?
John Barrett,
Barrett was
me, and Eric Schmidt in heavyweight masters, and we had a 3-way tie for first place with 1 rep. Vachio came the closest of getting the 2nd rep. He almost knocked out the 2nd.
So, but that story right there reminds me of another one. You told me, Chris, and it's been a few years, but you were at a comp and a younger guy came up to you and talked about like how you and a few of the other masters were just sitting around laughing in the shade. Like I'm probably telling this wrong, like not warming up, not really feeling too stressed out. And do you remember what I'm talking about?
Loving it.
Yeah.
Tell that story if you can. Remember?
Oh yeah, he was he was younger guy. He's bouncing all around like a lot of the younger guys do. And it's just like, man, you guys are just sitting around chilling out. Like, man, never miss an opportunity to sit the fuck down.
We're just happy to still be doing it, man. We're just happy to be here.
Why burn all that energy? Doing all this other stuff, and I'm just going to take enough energy. I'm saving energy for the actual event.
Yep.
So
sit in the shade, sipping lemonade. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, plus, especially when you're a heavyweight, it's like by the time the warm-ups end and you actually get to the damn event, 9 times out of 10, you've been sitting on your ass for an hour anyway.
Right.
Or half an hour, so it's not like you're going to be, nice and warmed up. It's just part of strongman.
That's a whole other conversation about warm-ups and strongman. We'll table that one for another time.
Yeah. So, Chris, what do you like most about the sport?
Definitely the camaraderie of the people.
Yeah.
There's 99.9% of the people in the sport are really super cool. I've only met a handful of assholes in the sport. We have a very low douchebag quotient, as I like to call it.
Yeah.
Because I was around the bodybuilding scene, and oh my god, if you find yeah, I know. Back in college, it was a phase. But it was around the bodybuilding scene. When you find somebody who wasn't a self-absorbed douchebag, you were kind of like, oh wow, that's cool. And powerlifting, you got a lot. There are a lot of cool people in powerlifting too, but there are definitely, I would say, probably you got 50-50 odds of finding somebody who's a douchebag.
I think there's ego in any of it, right? There's ego everywhere.
There's big ego, but strongman, there's not as much ego. So, we still have our assholes, but there aren't as many. And a lot of the people who are douchey tend to wash out. So
I think that's one of the things too that I've had people remark to me, like when they're at a comp, whether I'm competing, whether I've promoted, it's like, for the newer people, man, everybody's so nice, everybody's so helpful. Yeah, because we don't want to see anybody get hurt. We want to see everybody, do well. Hell, you and I have gone, head to head, plenty of times. We've all competed against one another. Yeah. You still want to, see each other do well and not get injured. Yeah,
exactly. If I'm going to win, I want to win because I performed really well, not because somebody else shit the bed.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to, by the same token, so if I go out and I put out my best effort and I have a great event and somebody else comes up and beats me.
Oh, you put out. Come on now.
Every chance I get. Yeah,
so what do you like least about the sport? We're talking about what you like most. What about like least?
Least, I would say probably a lot of the people getting overly specific about stuff. From a promoter standpoint, people not reading the fucking entry form. But
that happens.
That's a whole nother podcast too.
That is a whole other
it's just so people just being lazy like that.
Well, and that's indicative of not just strongman, but just the world. And like, look it up. Google. There's this thing called the internet, and Google.
Google is not
search it.
Yeah. God, there's one on the Starting Strongman page, just like within the last week of Lynn Morehouse posted qualifying events for his online qualifier, and somebody immediately was like, well, what counts as a rep in the deadlift thing, and I'm like, and he posted a picture with a fucking link for more information. Right there it says for more information, follow the link. Instead, he posted on Starting Strongman. So, that kind of stuff irritates the hell out of me.
So along those same lines, I can understand somebody asking a question like, okay, you say you're going to do an axle press or an axle deadlift. Okay, what kind of axle? I'll tell you it's a 2-inch axle, but I'm not going to get into the specifics of it's a Rogue powder coated 2-inch axle with, you know, look, it's a 2-inch axle. That's all you got to know.
The all-time dumbest question is still, was it Steve Barkley's Nationals in 2017 when a guy
during the rules meeting?
Yeah, during the rules,
yeah.
How big is the 2-inch axle? Was his question. The look on Barkley's face was fucking amazing. And Barkley's just like,
I feel for that guy's girlfriend or wife or
man. And, I mean,
I swear it's 2 inches.
It was like after we were already done with the axle event, or know, talking about the axle event, and we had moved on to the next. It might even have been 2 events. How big is the 2-inch axle? Like, well, one, why weren't you? One and asked me. You answered it.
6 inches.
Yeah, sorry.
Hey, real quick. So I want to just interject. One of the things we want to do with this podcast is not just talk to more seasoned competitors like yourself, Chris, but also use this podcast as an opportunity to give people an idea of what competitions are coming up over the next, 2 or 3 months. Highlight some competitions. I think, we've got one in here, of yours as well. So we put together a quick little video calendar intermission segment so everybody can go, relieve themselves, have a smoke, grab a drink, and whatever you need to do. And everybody who's watching can enjoy the calendar and see what shows are coming up between now and the
2
next.
2 minutes, I could probably rope a couple out in there.
Okay, we're about to find out.
All right.
So 2-minute intermission. Go. We'll be back.
And we're back.
Yeah.
Couple of highlights from that. Chris, you've got a show coming up, America's Strongest with Disabilities. You've been doing that for a number of years. Yeah, that, again, in and of itself is probably another whole podcast to talk about, but tell us a little bit about that.
I just 6 years ago, I was bothered by the fact that nobody was doing it. And at the suggestion of a friend, I was just like, I went ahead and jumped because it was what got me was one of the athletes from up in Canada. He was on a radio show, and back the one that Mike Johnston used to do ways back. And he was like, it'd be nice if I didn't have to go all the way to Iceland to compete. And I got in touch with him. I'm like, nobody else is doing this, and he's like, no, it's the Iceland show is the only one being done anywhere in the world. And I'm like, all right. So mine was the first adaptive strongman show to be done outside of Iceland. And
cool.
And then Gary Clark followed that up. His was like a month after mine in England. And now it's starting to catch on a little bit. It's starting to gain some more traction. My ultimate thing, I hope it spreads all over the country and all over the world. We got a ton of shows, and we got enough shows we can rival, the able-bodied stuff. So.
Speaking of Iceland, what's the furthest you've ever traveled to compete?
Australia. I went to Australia in 2019.
That was Static Monsters, right?
I remember that. Yeah,
went out to Static Monsters. Yeah, and
that's awesome.
It was one of those horrible life choice, honestly. But I mean, any other time, I had just finished running 2019 Nationals.
Oh, right after Nationals. That's right.
Yeah, so I finished running the largest strongman competition in history, and that's on Saturday. On Monday, I'm on a plane halfway around the world to go compete.
Your daughter with you?
Yeah, my daughter went with me.
How'd she like it?
She loved it. Yeah, she thought it was cool. Other than early on, I got sick. I got food poisoning like the day after we got there.
Yeesh.
And so I spent, the plan was, of course, to, just go see some sights and, eat and hydrate all day and just chill. Nope. Ended up laying around the hotel room, trying not to barf everywhere.
Yep.
Yeah, she was, she empathized with me that, I was obviously not feeling well, but she was definitely a little bummed out that we were spending our, Australian holiday laying there.
How'd you like Australia?
I loved Australia. It was cool. I want to go back. I want to take a longer time frame. Probably go back without any competitions.
Mm-hmm.
Just go back and see it. And,
be a tourist.
Yeah, be a tourist. And
any idea what the strongman community is like in Australia? Like, what's the culture there?
Pretty decent. They don't have, obviously they don't have it's not near as big as what it is in the U.S.
Yeah,
but they have a couple 300 people.
Okay.
And and they're just like pretty much the rest. They're a pretty cool community. Yeah. I met a lot of cool people out there. Made a lot of really good friends. It's nice to meet some of those folks in person. And so
cool.
Yeah, I want to go back and eat some more kangaroo. Kangaroo was good as hell.
You know what? We went on our honeymoon and I had kangaroo a couple times. Yeah, it's like venison, like it's nice lean. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I was really like amazed at how good the kangaroo was. So
that's something you hear every day.
Yeah, yeah, and that was that was the furthest I've traveled. Okay. Fun. Yeah, fun, but I'd prefer not to travel quite that far to compete again.
Yeah.
Or if I do, not to get food poisoning.
It's a long flight, man, for a big dude. Yeah. I feel you.
Yeah, how long was the flight?
It was like 19 hours.
To say 20.
And I can't. Well, I didn't have a way to hook up my CPAP. Oh. So I was awake for the whole flight. So now I've figured out I've got a USB plug that I can use for it. But the one I hadn't figured that out prior to that. I thought it had a USB port on it, and I thought that was a power port, and it was actually just a data port. So when I got on the plane, I'm like, oh, great, I have no way to power this thing. And I ended up just having to be awake the whole time. And I got to catch up on a lot of movies.
Hey, what was the first show you ever did? Was that Steve Slater show you talked about?
No, I did. It was called the Jack Katz Memorial up in Cleveland. And that was funny. I had I got dead last in 3 of the 5
in there.
Yeah, and I got that's so funny because I should have if I hadn't been a dumbass, I would have done much better in the deadlift. I reasonably could have won the deadlift event if I hadn't been a dumbass. But I was still coming from the powerlifting world, and I had a very big, straps are for pussies bias at that moment.
Yeah. Not anymore.
Yeah, well, exactly it. I went up and it was funny because Steve was my judge at that show. Okay. I went up and I walked up to the deadlift bar and Steve's like, those straps? And I'm like, nah, straps are for pussies. He's like, okay. It's allowed in the rules. You can use them. I'm like, nah.
Right.
I'll be a real man and pull without straps. And
ended
up pulling.
Lesson learned.
Yeah, ended up pulling 4 reps and got last. And the winner only got 8. So I'm like, okay, great. I could have smoked everybody at this event, but instead I was a dumbass. So my straps are for pussies bias died that day.
Speaking of lessons learned, Chris, and I, you could probably write a book on this, but thinking back to those early days, give us or give anybody watching, what are a couple other lessons learned that you would want to share with folks new to the sport?
Don't stress out too much about stuff is probably the biggest lesson. People get too focused on they get too focused on winning. And this is a fucking hobby. So
have fun, man.
Yeah, have fun. It's, set your targets based on, okay. So, I mean, if I'm training and I know, okay, I can hit 300 consistently on a log in training.
Yeah.
And we've got a max log in the contest, and okay, I'm gonna shoot to beat that. But if I go out and I knock out, if I'm consistently hitting 300, and then I go to the contest and I hit a 315, I'm gonna be excited as hell.
Good day.
I'd be excited as hell, even if every other guy in my group got 325 or higher. You know what? I still exceeded, it's a PR. I still exceeded what I aimed at. And I see too many people just going, I'm not going to compete until I can win, or they get all stressed. Oh, I don't know if I'm going to win this event, or I don't know if I'm going to place well on this event. It's like, it's a fucking hobby. Who cares?
Yeah.
Go out and have fun with it. If you do great, awesome. If you don't,
I think that's the biggest separation, like you said earlier too, with the ego, right? I mean, and
exactly.
Getting into the sport as a masters, I can attest to that. The ego for the masters guys is way lower.
Yes, much.
Than
most.
Standard for
most.
Yes,
except for ego should not be named.
Yes, thank you.
Right. So, but I mean, the ego level is so much lower because, again, the masters guys and girls get it that this is a hobby. We are having a ball here today, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
it's
not like I'm not gonna pay my mortgage with Strongman. So it's an expensive hobby. That's I damn well should have fun in it. For the amount of time and effort that I put into it, the amount of money that I put into it, I sure as fuck better have some fun.
And I think for all of us, the three of us and others kind of who we know, like it's an opportunity for us to get together and see our friends, right? We get to hang out,
It's a family reunion. Yeah,
it's a big dysfunctional family reunion. We all bring a protein, we all bring pre-workout and an unresolved issue, and
right,
have some fun.
Talk about our injuries and
a bottle of bourbon here and there. I
it's lubrication of the sport.
Yes, that's right. Joint lubrication.
That's good. Sure. You screw up the first or second event, you can just run over and all right, I'm starting the bourbon early.
Yeah.
Yep. Might as well.
Be passed out by the last.
That happens at comps. What?
I know. Yeah. That's how you can tell how somebody's doing at a show. Yeah. See
how early they start drinking.
Well, I saw back at the first Derek Stone show that I went to, there was two kids back there. I think they were both 165s. And dude, they were drinking beer out of a cooler before the first event. They were both hammered by the time they got to Stones. And I'm like, man, where did the manual go for that? How did I miss that train? And they talk about guys having a ball. They were having
one of Davey's shows, one of Davey McCann's shows. I actually had to wake the dude up. He'd drank himself into pretty much a stupor. And they're calling his name. I'm like, hey, grab him by the shoulder and shake him. And he's like, what? I'm like, you're up on the Stones, dude. Oh. So,
Good times.
Gosh, yes.
Here, shotgun a beer and go do it. Go.
Yeah, basically.
Sure. That's awesome.
Beer and pre-workout.
Beer and pre-workout. Absolutely.
Never actually tried that.
Hey, I'm not either, and I have no plans to, but I'm sure somebody will watch this and go, hey, I could throw some C4 in my beer.
Okay. One more question from me. What's your favorite event?
Probably a log press. I mean, a log got me into the sport, so log press. Be nice once my shoulder decides to cooperate again and I can actually do it confidently again.
What about your least favorite? And don't say any moving event.
Oh no. My least.
I can almost guess what this one's going to be.
Honestly,
I'm pretty sure I know.
No, actually, no. I think I'm going to throw a curve, but that Magnuson carry that cross thing, cylinder, that, and because I'm sure it probably doesn't, okay, the guys that are running enough gear to shrink their balls or that are just young enough to not have their balls hanging down. But for us older guys, we pick that thing up and it smacks the fuck out of your balls. So it's like you pick the thing up, and then you got to walk with it as your balls are smashed. And it's so yeah, whoever did that was a testicle hating.
I thought you were gonna say yoke, man.
No, I thought
yoke. I'm good at yoke.
I thought you were gonna say farmers.
Yeah, no, I don't hate the farmers, even though I suck at them. But no, that Magnuson carries the most. Yeah, that's the worst one. Just because, like you said, because you have to have a wide stance to pick it up, and as soon as you pick it up, hello balls. Yeah. If I ever do that event again, I'm gonna wear a fucking cup.
Probably a good idea.
Yeah, because otherwise I'm gonna be, oh hi.
Listen up, kids. Remember, Chris Vachio says,
That's right.
Wear a cup. Either wear a cup or do enough gear so you shrink your balls and you don't have to worry about smashing them.
Well, we're gonna wrap it up. We want to keep these episodes to roughly 30 minutes, and we're just over. So, Chris, want to thank you for joining us for the inaugural maiden voyage of the Average Joe Strongman Show 2.0. Excuse me, getting all choked up. I'm getting all choked up. But I mean, we've got probably another 50 questions, an hour's worth of material to talk with you about. So we'll need to get you back on.
No,
any final words here, Lee?
No, Chris, again, thanks for coming. It's always a blast.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely. Thanks for being our first host. And
no, we're the host. He's our first guest. Get it right.
First guest, whatever.
Amateur.
Yeah. Whatever. I gave him the big screen, so yeah. No, appreciate you coming. Thanks for being our first guest, and we look forward to having you back for many more. So.
Oh yeah, we'll have some fun times.
See you guys.
See
you.